Okay, this video is an introduction to Session 2 Language Arts. This is for grades 6 through 8, okay, ages 11 through 13. It might be a year younger if a 10-year-old has the skills to be able to be in this class. And also it could be 1 to 2 years older, particularly if a student needs the skills that this class would give him. Now, this class, like the other class, like all the skills classes, meaning language arts and math, have tests at the beginning to find out where the student is. And we want the student to be able to come up to a certain level of knowledge. We'll test right from the beginning in phonics and accent and syllabication rules, in spelling and penmanship, in being able to understand grammar and mechanics, also in writing skills, comprehension skills, and so forth. Now, what we find is that students are very different. We're all individuals. And thank goodness that Heavenly Father treats us as individuals. That's the way we treat our students. We know that Jane is going to be different than Dick, and Thomas is going to be different than Susan. You know, that's just the way it is. And so with our testing, we are able to fine-tune what they need to bring them up to a certain level. And so for the conventions of English, which is what I just mentioned, the areas I just mentioned, we do the testing, and then we begin to fill in any deficiencies, and after that we continue to build and increase the knowledge that the students have. Now, in English, vocabulary is extremely important. There was a study done several decades ago that found that vocabulary was possibly the most important subject in the school curriculum. And the reason for that is that when one becomes mature and goes out to earn a living and so forth, that the person with the greatest vocabulary wins. In other words, you can do almost any job because you can read and comprehend. And if you have to switch jobs 2 or 3 or 4 times in your adult career, then if you have the vocabulary and the background in vocabulary, it's a lot easier for you to understand your new position. So we do emphasize vocabulary. It's just a good idea. And incidentally, the scriptures are among the best vocabulary books on the planet, particularly the Old Testament. Now, what do we do as far as reading? Now, that's a different situation. For literature, we have this book, Seeking True Values. It has poetry in it, it has stories and so forth, and it is very, very good. It's, again, a book of virtues, which will teach the children very good virtues, and also has vocabulary in it. So we use Seeking True Values. Other than that, it is our year for LDS literature. And so this year we are doing Jesus the Christ. And if you're going to get a copy of Jesus the Christ, we suggest you get one like this. This is the collector's or centennial edition. It will be black with the gold and the picture and so forth. And we suggest that because it is a beautiful book and it's a good keepsake. Now, we do emphasize, again, vocabulary. We approach this because students are not going to be able to understand what Elder Talmage wrote in this volume unless they have an understanding of the vocabulary. It's the same as in English, period, in reading the Bible or whatever. I walked into my chapel a few years ago, and there was an institute class going on. The teacher was explaining the meaning of words in the New Testament, and I just stood there appalled and astonished that these people, 50, 60 years old, that were taking the class, maybe some in their 70s, they didn't know the vocabulary. They couldn't understand the New Testament without understanding the vocabulary. And so vocabulary, again, I said, is very, very important. And we ask the children to do a vocabulary study on each of the chapters. Then we read the notes. We also have another book that's around here somewhere That's a study guide that brings us up to date on what the archaeologists and scientists and historians have found out since Talmage wrote the book. And that is kind of interesting. And then we go into the chapters and we ask the students to summarize. Now, summarizing is a skill that is taught at the 6th to 8th grade level. And so we start out paragraph by paragraph, summarizing. And eventually we get to the point where they can read the whole chapter or whole sections of a chapter and summarize what was in that particular section or chapter. So that's what we do with this volume of Jesus the Christ. We read quite a bit of it the first quarter. It takes the students a little time to get into it. And then we do one chapter a week. And then it comes up in the spring that it just so happens that around Easter time we're reading the appropriate chapters in Jesus the Christ. So it's a fun thing to do. It challenges the students and it brings them up in their abilities and their confidence. And that's what we want to do. We want to have success experiences, you know. So if we just dove right into this and we didn't take it a little bit at a time and so forth, it would be overwhelming to most students, particularly in our day and age. But if we take it bit by bit and gradually step into it, the water isn't as cold or as hot, and it becomes lukewarm and very comfortable. So that's a little bit about our second session language arts courses.